Hi, this is Owen Thornton. This is my vblog, which corresponds with my weblog at ontariocrafts.wordpress.com. This is going to be the second video on Prince Edward County, especially the VQA vineyards. But I am actually going to talk a little bit about Lake on the Mountain, which is the shirt that I'm wearing right now. This microbrewery was, I'm going to show you some pictures, full size, and talk underneath them again so you can see things a little bit better. This is a microbrewery, and I brought back six variety, and I have just loved every one of them. This is a beautiful little microbrewery. It is between Picton and the ferry on Loyalist Parkway, Highway number 33, County Road number 33, where you pick up the ferry to cross over and head on 33, continuing on towards Bath and Kingston. At the very top of the hill, actually, I believe where we turned in, there were spots where the cars could stop and not stop as you waited for the ferry. That's how close Lake of the Mountain Brewing Company is to the ferry stop. And it was a terrific little spot. And they had a beautiful area out back. If you walk through the microbrewery, and sat outside by a beautiful little pond, and those are the pictures I want to show you. The thing I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Prince Edward County was the wine that they grow there, the grapes that they grow there. I would say four principal varietals you're going to see there, and very Burgundy-esque as far as considering what Vinous vinifera type style grapes you would see growing in Burgundy, which is Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. You will see a little bit of Pinot Gris, which is also known as Pinot Grigio. Pinot Gris, sort of the French style of making wine from Pinot Grigio, and Pinot Grigio is more like the Italian style, very light. The other thing you might see is a little bit of Riesling, and those would be the four principal grapes. Anything else that you're going to see outside of that is going to be highly experimental. I believe that I said in the last video that many of the grape types that they grow in the region, they drop those vines in the fall, bury the vines in earth to protect them from the cold winters that they experience there, and then raise them up again and put them back on the trellises in the springtime. The reason that they do this here is that it is colder here for longer. And while the growing region might be equal to or thereabouts to the area of Burgundy, France, the growing season is perhaps as equal or better than what you would experience in France. The problem with mid-continental winters here in the middle of the continent of North America is that the temperatures of the cold go down deeper and lower for longer, and that is what harms the grapes. You would see in Europe, the cold period would be much lower, and the grapes wouldn't experience dieback because of damage due to cold. So you're looking at Pinot Noirs and Chardonnays, and principally, as I said, Rieslings and Pinot Gris also as well. You will see other things like hybridized grapes. We saw a Marquette, a field of Marquette, and actually bought a semi-sweet bottle of Marquette, which I'd never seen before, from Harwood Estates, so I want to try that. And you will see other things. I remember talking to you about pecorinos a little while ago from Italy, and one of the vineyards actually grows a pecorino and sells it in Prince Edward County. The beautiful thing about Pinot Noirs and Chardonnays is, and all varietals really, but Chardonnay particularly, I'm going to talk about Pinot Noir first, is that much can be done with these grapes to make them taste different. So you don't experience the same wine one vineyard to the next. Whether the Pinot Noir is oaked or how long it is aged, the growing conditions, what the yeast is used, and those kinds of things all change those flavors of those wines. We experienced a tremendously beautiful little Pinot Noir at Redtail, which was the first place we stopped as we came in on the west side of the county and started heading south. Redtail was the first time we saw, and we were so glad to finally be in Prince Edward County. We stopped at the first place, and we had a terrific time at Redtail. Harwood Estates also has a Pinot Noir as well. Harwood Estates had a Chardonnay sur lees, and that means on the lees. And what are the lees? Well, when the yeast is eating these sugars and converting the sugars to alcohol, the yeast goes through a life cycle and it dies and falls to the bottom. When the vintner deliberately takes a device and stirs those lees back up into the wine so that those flavors from the dead yeast cells come back into the wine, uh, obviously filtered out completely. But when they stir that up regularly so that those lees come back up into the wine, that gives it a bready or a yeasty taste. And I'm telling you, this Chardonnay sur Lees from Harwood was lovely. My wife Carrie sampled this at Harwood and liked it, and fortunately we had the good sense to buy 2 bottles. We've experienced one, and we'll hold that second one maybe for a special couple or maybe just for ourselves. It was just that special. But Chardonnay is a varietal that much can be done with it. It can be harvested early, left higher in acidity. You can even add Pinot Noir to it because you do that some places in Burgundy, and you can create a Champagne. Champagne, France is a subsection of the Burgundy region or just nearby the Burgundy region. And Chardonnays and Pinot Noirs make Champagne principally. You can let the Chardonnay stay on the vine longer and it loses its acidity and goes through flavors from green apple and citrus through to peaches and apricots, sort of that range, and then it can move on to tropical fruit ranges. You can grow Chardonnay in the cool climate, very much so that they experience in Prince Edward County, but you can also grow Chardonnay in moderate and warm climates as well. So it is an extremely versatile grape. You can put it through malolactic conversion. That takes some of the acidity that you take out of it and makes that rich creaminess. Sometimes it can almost taste like a little bit of a light cheese flavor from malolactic conversion. You can leave it in barrel on steel or in oak, and you can have various kinds of oak. You can have North American oak, French oak. You can burnish the barrels. That's the flame that comes on inside and makes it deeper and richer. And that means if you burnish it more, that means that more grape is through osmosis goes into the wood and comes back, and it becomes even more robust with the flavor of the barrel. If it's a French oak, that is a small-celled oak, and not as much wine goes through the French oak as it would North American oak because it's warmer and the cells are larger, and that allows osmosis to go into the American oak. You can use multiple kinds of barrels. You can use first-time use barrels, second, third, and fourth. Each generation of barrels that have been used imparts less wood, but gives a little bit of the wine from the previous times that have been in the oak. You can all or in the oak barrel. You can also use a cask from another production facility like sherry or whatever if you wanted to. I'm not sure I've ever seen that, but certainly we are seeing with cab sauce. We're seeing cab sauce put in sherry barrels and bourbon barrels, and you're seeing those kinds of things come through. I'm sure that something like that's being done with Chardonnay as well. So Chardonnay is exceptionally versatile, and we see that versatility come out in the wines in Prince Edward County for sure. So you are looking at Chardonnays and Pinot Noirs. Those are the principal ones. You will see other varietals. People taking big risks in growing warmer climate grapes in a region that really is not very friendly towards them. What was interesting also, one last thing, we were at Harwood Estates and they were just raising the vines up from the earth just before the Mother's Day long week, well, Mother's Day, not long weekend, Mother's Day weekend. And out front, that was at the back of the property, and out front of the property was Marquette, and that a hybridized varietal, which is designed to be grown in cooler climates, had not been dropped and didn't need to be dropped because it was hardier and was able to sustain itself against the cold of the winter. So you may start seeing more of those kinds of grapes. There are purists there, and there's a board sitting down there on the VQA section of Prince Edward County, and they like to see the traditional grapes grown in the region that suits the climate. But people will want to take chances, will want to get themselves a niche for themselves to see if they can get something different. And so that's why we're seeing pecorinos and marquettes and other varietals, cab sauves and stuff like that. They do exist there for sure, but they just are not as prevalent and they don't take as many risks there simply because it's too cost ineffective, essentially, to grow those grapes outside of the climate that they're in. Anyways, Prince Edward County, grape growing there. Lake on the Mountain Brewing Company, that's the shirt I've got on. wonderful time, wonderful people. We had a tremendous experience everywhere we went, and we will be going back to the region sometime in the future because we just loved it so much. I think we would go probably again in early to mid-May before the season started. It was fully alive, almost like we were there for the practice run of how busy it's going to be after the May 2-4 long weekend. We wouldn't be crowd folks, wouldn't want to try to be there during that time. But what was really important to me was that while I'm quite happy to live here in beautiful London, Ontario, in the middle of a terrible drought, by the way, and I hope that you all are watering your plants and experience rain very soon. But when we were there, we could imagine ourselves living there. And I think that that says an awful lot about a region and the people that are there. So, from our hearts to all the people that we met at Prince Edward County, I want to thank you very much for a great time. This is Owen Thornton signing off for myself and Carrie, my wife, who had a terrific 40th anniversary celebration while we were there in Prince Edward County. Thank you all very much for our wonderful vacation, and we'll talk with all of you soon. Take care. Bye for now.